You read it right. We built a gym for our kids. So 1 year ago today, my wife and I actually took the plunge and we built a gym for our kids. And I can tell you, it has changed everything. And so today I want to talk about not only our journey since building the gym and what it has led to for both me and my family, but I want to talk about some of the pros and cons behind making such a major investment in our kids' athletic success. Stay tuned to the end of the video and I'll talk more about not only how to build your own gym, but also how to get it to pay for itself. Well, building a gym is something that I've always wanted to do. It's always something that has sounded good, in my mind. First and foremost, I never thought I would actually have my own gym. And what has occurred since having my own gym, I never would have thought would have occurred either. And so first I want to start off with some of the reasons why we decided to actually build the gym. The first reason was just we needed, or I felt like we needed, unfiltered access to a facility. And that was essentially because every time we would go to the gym, there was always an issue. Well, I say every time, but a lot of times, right? Sometimes there are other people shooting on the same goal, or maybe there's someone on the other end being loud and the ball keeps coming down, or maybe the gym's closed for repairs or to refinish the floor. Maybe we can't get to the gym in a particular week because we're getting home late or whatever the case may be. And so I wanted to have unfiltered access to a facility so that I could properly train my kids. The other reason was for regularity. Okay. The way I was raised, training with my father was really our bonding time. And you may say, well, that was not good fatherhood, or that's not a great relationship, but it was great for me. And I find that even when we look back at the olden days and how parents would bond with kids was through apprenticeship. You would learn the family business, the family trade. You would get to see your parent working and interacting, and you would aspire to be more like them, or at the very least, you would learn a lot of very valuable skills. And so I love going on vacation with my kids. I love, playing with them around the house. I love, whatever it is. I love all the parts of being a dad, but I feel that it's important that we work together, that we strive towards a goal together, that I help them in areas in which they're engaged in. And so being able to do this more regularly was really important to me because, as I mentioned earlier, we weren't always able to get into the gym. The other reason why we built the gym was because I really wanted to be a teacher and not a trainer for our kids when it came to basketball. When we think about teaching, it's very systematic. It is very consistent. There is a structure and a flow and a design to teaching. Training is just, here, take these skills and do something with them. And that's exactly what I felt like I was doing with them because we were so rushed. We never could consistently get in the gym. And when we did, we would rush. Our training would be dictated on whatever the circumstances were. Maybe we would have 30 minutes one day. Maybe we would have 45 one day. And I'm like, hey, I don't have time for you to try to figure this out. Like, you need to get this now because I don't know the next time we're going to be in the gym. And so I wasn't saying that, obviously, but I think that was my mentality and the feeling behind how I was training with my kids at the time. And I wanted us to be able to take our time and me to really be able to give them exactly what they needed in the moment, knowing that if you don't get it, it's okay. We can come back tomorrow. We can come back the next week, the next month, the next year even, because we have a space that's dedicated for us. And those were really the reasons why we wanted the gym. And mind you, we were in the gym somewhat regularly. I would say 1 to 2 days per week. So it wasn't that we were getting in the gym once per month, but I wanted, as my kids were becoming more and more engaged, they were wanting to get more out and naturally wanting to put more in. And I wanted to create a space where that could happen. So what has happened since building our gym 1 year ago today? Well, first and foremost, it's led to me working with other kids, right? And so that was kind of an ancillary thing. I should say that was part of the reason why I built the gym, was in order to help share my knowledge with other athletes, particularly the ones that I had already worked with. I was a trainer for many years in some of my first roles as an athletic director. A lot of time the school would ask me to train basketball players as well. And I knew I had a heart to want to work with those kids. That was important to me. Not only that, but I had also coached many of my kids' teams throughout the years. And I knew so many student athletes who were now coming of age, because my son's in high school now. My daughter is a sixth grader. And I actually got to see them in the school setting. And it's like, oh, they need help. Like, I need to be able to help them navigate this process. And so more and more people began to say, hey, I see you got a gym. Can we come work with you? When do you train? Jason, Sydney, we're going to come and watch, or we'd love to come work out. And what you have to understand, if you're somebody who has led or helped people, groups of people, I mean, you understand that you've got to create systems, you've got to create programs, you've got to create principles that stretch beyond you, right? Because you can't work with every individual person every individual time, and you've got to be able to create these systems and standards that can help lots of people. And so I say that because it got me to thinking on a bigger scale. Like, so-and-so is going through this issue, and maybe there are 3 or 4 other kids who aren't going through that, but maybe there are 2 or 3 more that are. And so I need to create a new program that's going to address this issue. And this essentially became my mindset. And eventually, over time, what this led to was me just seeing that this was a higher purpose and a higher calling and a higher opportunity to impact others. You see, I was someone who I would characterize as an athlete who mastered ascension. I was someone who, from the age of whenever I first picked up a ball until my sophomore year, really after my sophomore year, no one would have picked out of a lineup. I was literally an average Joe. I was somebody who wasn't the tallest, wasn't the fastest, wasn't the most skilled. A lot of these things I was lacking, but I was able to put everything together in time to have a major breakthrough. And it all started as a high school sophomore, when after a freshman season of not being on the varsity until halfway through the season, actually the end of the season, I was placed on the varsity just as a courtesy. I then make the jump from freshman, varsity, last man on the totem pole, to 3 months later being the team's leading scorer. And we were still one of the best teams in the state, great program. I just made this major jump. Now, mind you, I grew over 3 inches and probably added 20 pounds during this time. But I see a lot of student athletes that happens to, and they don't make that type of jump. Even more so, the next year, I made the jump from 18 points a game to 24 points a game. And I'm just focusing on points a game, but obviously the other stats went up too. And then yet again, from 24 points a game to 28 points a game. Even as a college athlete at the Division I level, I was able to go from averaging 4 points a game as a freshman to 8 points the next year, and essentially doubled that as a junior, and then averaged over 18, 19 points a game as a senior. In both situations, as a high schooler, finishing as my school's all-time leading scorer, as a college athlete, finishing in the top 10 in several statistical categories, including scoring. And so I say that to say I am somebody who mastered the ability to ascend as an athlete, to make the most of my opportunity. And guys, I see so many, I would say the majority of athletes don't understand how to do this. And it hurts my heart, because there's so many of you that are skilled. There's so many student athletes that have the knowledge, that have the tools, that have the talent, that have the opportunity even, but they're not making the most of it. I'm going to be plain with you, okay? In order for most athletes to make the most of their athletic time, they need to put together a stat line that is going to attract college recruiters, okay? Hold the phone. I know a lot of coaches and a lot of parents and a lot of people in your circles tell you stats don't matter, but they do. And that doesn't mean we need to be stat chasers, but we need to be chasers of impact. We have to be able to apply our skills in a manner in which we create impact on the floor. And the way in which impact is calculated or valued is through statistical analysis. And I say this because there are so many student athletes who are putting in hours upon hours upon hours on a weekly basis. And you look at their stat line, it's 6 points a game and 2 rebounds a game and shooting 30% from the floor. And so many athletes don't understand how to apply their skills. And for whatever reason, I was someone who got really good at that. And I'm saying all this because I now have a purpose to share the how-to. Okay? So the athlete ascension component is number one. The second thing is I am the son of educators. My dad has been a long-time college law professor. My mom, a long-time high school educator. And this means two things. Number one, education was important. That was a must. And so I'm somebody who was graduated third in my high school class, graduated with cum laude distinction in college. I'm two-time academic All-American, ESPN academic All-American, never been done before in the history of my school. So education was important. It was stress, right? And because of that, how I break down these tools and tips, they come from a research-based background. As I mentioned earlier, I am designed as a teacher, not a trainer. And so I come about anything that I put out a little bit differently. The second reason why being a son of educators is important and how it has led me to seek my purpose after building this gym is because there's so much bad information out there about the importance of athletics when it comes to academics or versus academics. Because what I can tell you is that although my parents were both educators and I got education to the nth degree, athletics was the priority in my household. And it continues to be. When my kids come home from a hard day at school, I ask them two things. How was PE for my younger kids that are in PE? And how was practice for my son who's a high schooler? Because that is, for me, where the rubber meets the road, okay? And before you get up in arms, I understand the importance of academics, but I see academics as vegetables, the nutrients that we have to eat, right? When people talk about, man, that was a great meal, especially kids, especially students, they rarely talk about those vegetables they just ate. They talk about the meat, they talk about the potatoes, they talk about the dessert, maybe even the drink, whatever the case may be. These are the shiny objects that attract kids, that attract student athletes, that engage them at the highest levels. And then you sneak in the vegetables and the broths and all the other stuff that's really good for them, right? And so this was my parents' outlook. I'll never forget Bill Self, the one and only, sat on my couch and he begins to pull out all this academic paraphernalia about how great their school was from an academic standpoint. And my dad was like, hey, you can put all that up. We appreciate it, Coach. But Jason's engagement is based on sports, athletics. And so we need you to talk more about what his athletic experience is going to be like. So I say all that to say that so many people are wanting to support their student athletes at a higher level on the athletic side, but they're hearing other parents, they're hearing people in their church circle, they're hearing neighbors, they're hearing mom and dad say, well, you better get your education. Listen, as somebody who has multiple degrees on top of degrees, I have learned more in between those lines than anything I learned in a classroom. And I appreciate my education. It's a must. Like I said, like vegetables, you've got to have it. But when you're in between those lines, you're learning how to deal with people. You're learning how to deal with yourself. You're learning how to deal with difficulties. You're learning how to deal with success and triumphs. These intangibles is what makes successful people. And so it's this experiential component that essentially is the most important thing. It's not about going pro or getting to the Division I level. Yeah, those are great goals to have. And again, part of my purpose is to teach people how to accomplish those. But I tell people all the time, had I never played one day of college or pro basketball, my life would still have been forever changed because of sport, because of athletics. And so I just say that to say, in addition to the ability to ascend as an athlete, I have an academic background that is very important for me that I share with others, and because I see how it impacts things for student athletes. The other reason that building this gym and started to make this content in order to help people has really brought me to a higher purpose is because I've spent more than a decade as an athletic director. And as somebody who runs athletic programs in the school and for school districts, and as somebody who has hired hundreds of coaches, I understand that dynamic. I understand how coaches think and how they're coming about it and how they want to help. And I understand, I've seen so many parents and students come at it from a different mindset, and the two don't align. And what ends up happening? The student athlete loses the opportunity. And to me, that's the worst thing of all. I call it educational malpractice, when we cannot align with student athletes to get the most out of them. But it's really no one's fault, because coaches are wanting the best for their programs and for the athletes involved in them, but parents and players are wanting the best for themselves. And sometimes those two things don't mix. The other thing about being an athletic director is I've seen that there has to be a sense of urgency, because there's only 4 years, and there's a right way to go about that sense of urgency, and there's a wrong way. And I've seen so many parents, thousands upon thousands, worked with them time and time again, who put in good but don't get good out, who put in bad and sometimes get good out, who put in good and get good out, who put in bad and get good. You know, I've seen it all essentially. And because of that, I want to share what I know in order to help parents and players make the most of their 4 years. Lastly, I'm also an attorney. I come from a legal background. My father was an attorney. My brother's an attorney. And so the legal side of things, I've worked so many cases when it comes to dealing with school transfers and NIL, and that's another thing that's important for me to be able to share. So to answer my original question, what have been the pros and cons? Has the gym changed in our life? It's essentially changed everything, okay? First and foremost, I've had steady time to pour into my kids. It's been great. I mean, we're in the gym 3 to 4 nights a week. They can count on it. I'm way more calm. I'm not yelling most of the time, but they're way more consistent in their energy. I've seen them level up, not only in their skill level and their ability to apply their skill level, but they are way more mature. They're growing in their ability to take in information and execute on what they know. And it's really transformed their games. And one day I'll have to make a video about that specifically, but it has been great as far as our ability to bond as father, son, father, daughter, and eventually, hopefully one day with my youngest, Gia, who's just 4. The other thing that has really been a pro is the ability to pour into others. Like I've said, I've seen impact. I mean, I get messages from parents from week to week just saying, man, I see so much transformation in my son or daughter. You unlocked something in them that I always knew was there. We've seen, I can tell you, over a dozen kids who have gone from literally this level, whether it was not making a team or not playing on the team, not getting playing time, or not able to produce stats, to literally leveling up 2, 3, 4 times. I mean, it's been crazy and it's been amazing. And so that has been a great pro to building the gym. Lastly, I would say the gym has caused me to level up, not only professionally, but as a person, because as I mentioned, in order to really break down the methodologies that have given me success or allowed others to have success, in which I've witnessed, I've really had to become more research-based and stop and really think about it and become more thoughtful and strategic in how I share the information. So it's leveled me up as a professional, but it's also changed me as a person, because when you're preaching it, you got to live it, right? And so because I am now sharing this content with others, it's running through my mind. It's like, hold on, you said, so you really have to, and it's helped me with my kids. I have a whole series on, whether it's dealing with difficult coaches or being a bad parent, all those things have really just helped me personally, because I can say it's cathartic as a parent to get insight and to get tools that you can use, because I never saw my parents more frustrated or more without answers than through my athletic journey, because there's no book to it, it's my goal to one day write the book, but there is no book right now as far as how you navigate all these things. As far as cons, I would say there are really essentially none, other than, I got an extra yard to mow now, some extra space. My daughter might say, there's some cons because she doesn't always want to be in the gym. But as I mentioned, I think a lot of that's maturity, because, she still gets breaks. My son still gets breaks. And now I see them going to the gym by themselves, or saying, hey, Dad, when's our next workout? What's my schedule this week? And so it's been great from that perspective. So I can't really say there have been any cons other than just being really busy. Now, because of all this journey that building a gym just to essentially work with my kids a few extra days a week has taken me through, I can say that I am now committed to bringing you guys the very best content that I can create in order to help your student athletes ascend and achieve higher and higher results. It is my intention on this channel that you will receive information on, number one, how to apply skills faster, okay? How to get not only the knowledge, but the wisdom, because you can get the knowledge anywhere, right? I mean, everybody is a trainer or has a trainer, and no knock to trainers, because everybody's got a story, everybody's got a reason, everybody's got something they can share that helps. It takes a village, right? But there are very few trainers that I see that have actually taken those skills and used it to get themselves to the next level. So I can preach at you all day about, hey, this is what I've seen other people do, but if I've never done it, sometimes that may mean I lack the key, the one key. It may be a very small thing. I talk a lot about gear shifts. It may be a small perspective change that unlocks the ability to apply that thing. And so that is one of the things I am committed to providing on this channel, is content that unlocks the ability to apply skills. The second thing you're going to get on this channel, or is my intention to provide, is content around mental training and toughness. Because, as I mentioned earlier, it wasn't my physicality that made me the player I was. It was mind and heart. And as much as student athletes are working, are grinding, they've got to be preparing their mind. They've got to take some time to think through all this information that's coming to them through their trainers, through their parents, through their coaches. I mean, there's just a litany of information overload, and there's got to be some breakdown of that information in order to take out the things that are important. Similar to, I just talked about eating, and when we're eating, your body takes what's important, those important nutrients, and it pushes out the rest. And so student athletes have to learn that process. And so that's why I'm committed to bringing content that surrounds the mental side of things. The other thing I'm very passionate about, and you're going to get with this channel, is I want to help parents navigate the process of raising and rearing a successful athlete. Because it ain't all roses, folks. There are just as many downs as there are ups. And a lot of times parents just need to know that, number one, you're not crazy, or number two, you are crazy, and here's how you can get sane. Whatever the case may be, I have a real passion to help parents on this process. I see so many parents who are in one of two camps. Either they're all in and they're giving it all and they really prioritize athletics almost over prioritized. There is a such thing as that, even though I said athletics should be the priority. There is a such thing as over prioritization. Or then I see parents who refused to make any investment in athletics. And I think both are wrong ways to go about it, based on my experience. And so providing content for parents is huge for me. That's one of the reasons JP3, we talk about psychology, performance, and parenting. And so that's very important for me. And like I said, it's also cathartic for me as a parent. Lastly, again, as an attorney, I want to help provide the legal tips on how to navigate, whether it be school transfers or NIL or any new legal constructs. I do believe we're going to see a lot more of that in the coming years and decades, because high school athletics is becoming big business. And so, I mean, you've got all types of broadcast stations, you've got all types of apps that broadcast scores and that are making money around statistics and promotion and things of that nature. So you're going to see more and more legality around interscholastic athletics. And I'm someone who's committed to bringing great content where that's concerned. I promised you that I would eventually get to the gym tips, as far as if you're someone who ultimately wants to build a gym, and I will make a longer video where this is concerned, because I've had a lot of friends who have, since I've built my gym, I've had quite a few friends to build their own gym. Also had some people that I know very well who built their gym before I did, and I learned from. So there's a lot of information I want to share regarding building your own gym. But for now, I want to talk about two specific things. Number one, in order to build gym, you've got to have the land, obviously, but there are several ways to go about getting that. Number one is right where you live. There are all kind of zoning ordinances and things you got to watch out for, but you can often build a gym in your backyard, even if it is an outdoor court. Don't forget about that. Building an outdoor court with some type of shade structure or whatever the case may be. The other thing you can do is buy rural land. Go out to past the suburbs or whatever the case may be, buy you some acreage. You don't need a huge space. 1,500 square feet, 1,400 square feet. I think my gym is like 1,200 square feet. It needs to have at least 16-foot walls. 17 is best. I actually have 18 feet. But you can essentially build a structure this size almost anywhere. Now, like I said, in a longer video, I'll talk about what are the best materials, how to go about purchasing equipment. As a matter of fact, if you're interested in learning more about building your own gym, please type GYM in the comments. That'll help me to remember to make that video. But what I want to tell you is the other thing is you can look at some commercial space, because all you need is a storefront or some abandoned building, like I mentioned, 1,200 square feet or larger, and with high ceilings, and you can essentially buy the equipment, the flooring and everything else, and make you a gym. Obviously, it wouldn't be at your house, but it would be yours, and you could use it, and you would have unfiltered access to it, just like I was seeking. The other thing that's great to know about building a gym is that you can monetize it. You can actually have it pay for itself, which is a great thing, because if you are somebody who is financing your gym, and let's say it's going to cost you between $150,000 to $200,000, you're going to be looking at roughly $1,500 to $2,000 a month as a payment. And no, I have not checked interest rates lately. I'm just telling you based on my experience. If that's the case, you're going to have plenty of opportunities to rent your gym space for things like parties. At one point, I was renting my gym for pickleball before what I use it for now. I have friends that rent out their gyms exclusively to trainers, softball trainers, or pitching instructors, volleyball trainers, and of course basketball trainers, even pickleball trainers, which are some of the highest paid trainers. It's crazy. But you're going to have lots of opportunity to do that, or either train for yourself and have other kids and clients come work with you. And so those are just a few tips and tools about how to build your own gym. But guys, if you are committed to going on this journey with me, and I hope that you are, I hope something I said today resonated with you, please like and subscribe for me. Share this content with others. Again, my goal is to be here for the long run. I want to go to 100,000 subscribers. And right now, I think I got about 100 at last checks. So let's 1000x this thing together. And so I appreciate you watching, and see you next video.